Okay. So yeah, this last year at Sundance, we were getting up the first morning to get the dancers into the arbor early. We wanted them in there. We wanted to be able to get them in the sweat lodge before the sun came up. And so I got up early. I think it was about 4:45. And I went outside and I didn't have my coffee or anything to look forward to. So I just went out to kind of wake up and look at the sky. And I saw a meteor. And I can't remember the name of the meteor shower that takes place in early August, kind of. But I was like, it made me like look up at the sky, and I was like, oh yeah, there's that meteor shower going on. And I was looking around, and I was sitting in my truck seat, and I looked to my left as far as I could before my truck obscured the view, and this ship came out from behind my truck. But I mean, it was way off in the distance. It was over the hills. And I've seen a lot of ships. I've seen a lot of movement in the sky, a lot of lights, a lot of phenomenon. Never seen anything like this. It was, if I had to guess, a minimum of a mile long, the shape of a capsule. You really couldn't distinguish the outline of this thing, but it was there, and you could see the shape as it moved through the clouds, behind the clouds. But what got my attention and why I was able to see it is it had windows through the side of it. And if I had to count or guess, 50, maybe 100 windows. And again, this thing, it was hard to judge the distance when there's something that big in the sky. It could have been 5 miles wide. I really don't know, but it was a beautiful, astonishing sight, unexpected. And those things have occurred over and over when we're doing ceremony, because we're finding ourselves really in our heart space. And if there was any words that a man shared with me, Chief Golden Light Eagle said, if you do it from your heart, you can't go wrong. So when we do it all from our heart, magic shows up.
I lived in Red Feather a long time ago, and I woke up in the middle of the night and looked out my window, and I saw this star, and it started moving, and then it flew into my window, went into my chest, and felt like I was flying millions of miles per second, and there was always like kaleidoscope images and stuff. And then I was in this room that was dark, and this woman came out, and she looked very Egyptian, and she just looked at me, she smiled, she nodded, then I got sucked back out. And then when I came back to my bed, I could feel there was like this neon blue light around me, and I could feel my body in like layers, like I was spliced up. And then I just felt myself like slowly like vibrating back into myself, and that was pretty awesome.
All right, so I was with a circle at Devil's Tower, Wyoming, and we were there honoring Chief Golden Light Eagle, who many of us either danced or supported at his sun dances, which is all about connection with the star races and learning about our star history. So we were all looking at the sky the whole night, saw a lot of really wild stuff streaking across the sky, stuff that maybe was satellites, the International Space Station, a lot of stuff. But and it was already pretty powerful. But then everybody was going to bed. I was the last one up. I went to use the bathroom. As I'm heading back to my tent, I look up, and there's just an orb, possibly right above the trees. If not, it was a lot bigger. But it looked like about the size of maybe a beach ball, but way brighter than anything else in the sky. And so my heart already started to race, and just in my head, in my head I thought, thank you, who are you? And I'm starting to try to figure it out with my mind, and all of a sudden it gets 2 or 3 times as bright and gets twice as big, and 2 beams come out of it and just make a huge V in the sky. And I don't know what's going on. It floats this V over to what, like one of the only clouds in the sky. It's just a little wisp of clouds. And as it pulls it over there, the cloud almost like forms with the light. And it makes this shape in the sky. And I'm trying to figure out, just so I can describe it to somebody later, it looks like a Wi-Fi symbol. The top with the rectangle and a little triangle at the bottom, but the middle bars are missing. And it just hangs there for a minute, and then the orb disconnects from the Wi-Fi symbol, gets dim and small again, and just flies off in the distance. And the symbol just hangs there for a good maybe half a minute, and then just the cloud and everything just disappears. And at the time, I had no idea what any of that was. I just said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Heart racing, and just tried to go to sleep. And the next day, I went for a drive and sang some sacred songs, had a prayer smoke, and I stopped and looked up at the sun, and I started pulling in through my crown the sunlight. All of a sudden, I saw that V, and I realized, like, oh, I'm pulling like this. I need to open up. And as I start pulling in, I see the Wi-Fi symbol, and I realize, like, my middle bars are missing. I need to fill in. So it was a very personal message that I didn't understand until it, like, opened up the next day. But I've looked for anything stories that resemble that, and I haven't found any. It's known as a portal site. That's why Close Encounters of the Third Kind was filmed there. We saw ships when we watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When the ship shows up, you can see it was a lot smaller and subtle, but they show up when the ships show up in the movie, and then they fly off when it's done. So the best I can think of, it's some sort of drone they sent through with a message for me, and that just blew my heart open, just to think that however far they were. And then there's a symbol in Chief Golden Light Eagle's book that is the V with a line on it, and it's the Arcturians invoking the Freedom Ray, and they're shooting rays in the sky. So yeah, Freedom Ray, all about free will and just taking back control of ourselves. And so yeah, that's my story.
I was guided to share this message because the Sasquatch wanted everyone to know that they can connect wherever they are, whether they're in a city or a small town or in the deep woods or on a trail or anywhere. This encounter with Sasquatch happened when I was in a small town neighborhood. I was in my house and I was sun gazing out the window, and up on the horizon I saw a man run by really fast, and I thought, wow, that's really fast for a man to run by. And then I realized that it wasn't a man, that he was hairy, and he was looking back over his shoulder and running, and then I could feel that there was something going on, that it was something out of the ordinary. And he ran, and I knew that there was a big drop-off where he ran at full speed. He was running at full speed, and there was a huge drop-off where he went. I thought, nobody can run off that huge drop-off like that. And so I got in my car to go up there and look, and I also knew that he was about as tall as the underbrush, and I thought, well, maybe I'm just making all this up in my mind, that it's not Sasquatch. It's not that big. And then I got up there, and the underbrush was way above my head. Like, I could hold my arm up, and it was as high as me plus my arm held in the air. Like, whoa, that was a really tall, big person, and they were hairy. And I went back to my house, and I sat and looked again, and another one came running through, and he was being chased by two black small helicopters. I thought, oh, this is really getting interesting. And I don't know why he was being chased, and I don't know what was going on, and I don't know if it was two separate ones or the one was running in a circle of some sort. But I did some investigation into it, and it also happened right by a water tower. And I guess a water tower is a place where there is a way to connect. It is an amplifier, it is an antenna, it can be a place of even portals. And so maybe he didn't run off that steep thing, maybe it was a portal, and that's why he was running full speed to that place. But it did start my journey of being able to connect with them more, because I felt a mental connection at the time that was all happening too. And so that's what started my journey.
Okay, so there was this one time, I have a friend who's really good at astral projecting, and she has the ability to be able to touch you and basically take you anywhere she wants to go. And I remember there was a couple places I wanted to go. One was like a Yogananda temple where he was, and when you're there in kind of the astral realm, it's hard to describe, but it's almost like stuff from time's not really like as it is here, so you can kind of feel the essence of the area, and you can see a lot of the orbs from where his temple is. So there's almost like, it's like a fairy realm with a bunch of like little like sparkling balls and like almost like a lot of water energy. And I remember when she takes you there, she can see everything very clearly. There's another time where I asked to go, there's this place I really want to go to, and I said, hey, can we go to Antarctica? And she said, yeah, sure. So she took me, and we went, and it was almost like we ran up against almost like I would say like a glass wall. She basically did some sort of like toning, where she was like, "Ooh," did a spell essentially, and we were able to kind of see in through there. And we saw essentially like a base with like a lot of ether technology, where there was like, she described it as like water, but it was almost like then she realized it was a generator, and it was like, "Rah, rah, rah, rah," but it almost looked like water to her, because she didn't do any research, she didn't know anything about it. And then there was another kind of wall or something, and then I said, hey, can we go there? And she's saying, no, my higher self and my guides are telling us not to go there, because if we keep peeking through, it's gonna, there was some sort of thing her higher self was telling her to not go past a certain point, but we can only know, kind of we know that there's the Tesla stuff there, but not to go past this like certain, another layer of consciousness almost. So yeah. And so after that, after we did the astral projection, when we were done, she was visited by men in black. She said she saw like cars, like SUVs that would like almost like appear and disappear, and she saw basically men in suits outside her house, and they would be basically circling out around in her house. I never felt like I was visited that much afterwards, but I've definitely felt like the feeling when someone's trying to remote view you. I felt like that, like you're just laying in your bed and someone's psychically thinking about you and definitely looking into what your room is, what you're kind of trying to, remote view who you are in your room. So I had that feeling afterwards, after that occurred, but she had more of an experience where she felt like were following her, people were remote viewing her inside her house, and then she would see the men in black following her a few days after too.
I'm Jenna Frey, and I'm here telling my story about a trip down the river with my son yesterday in this beautiful valley on the Animas River. And as we're floating down the river, I asked my son if he felt like he had any gifts or what his gifts were. And he said, Mom, I don't think I have any gifts. I don't know what that means. And I said, well, something you're good at, or something, that you can do. And he wasn't quite sure. And then as we're floating down the river, I asked him if he could hear what the rocks were saying. And he listened, and he said they're saying, like kind of whispering to him. And so I asked him to listen just a little bit deeper. And he did. And I said, do you hear anything? He said, yeah. And I said, what? He said, they want us to leave. I said, oh, really? Okay. And I said, well, can you ask them why? And he said, yeah. And he listened, and he said, because we're bad. They think we're bad. I said, wow, okay. And then he stopped him and he goes, Mom, I'm gonna tell them we're good. I'm like, okay, you do that. And so he did. He took a moment, communed with the rocks, and said, did you tell him? And he goes, yeah, I did. And I was like, well, what did they say? And he goes, well, they're all right now. They're gonna take a nap. So we floated down the river a little bit more, and I checked in with him again. And I said, have the rocks said anything else? And he said, yeah, Mom. And he points way downstream and up at the top of the edge of the cliff where the rocks kind of come to an end and slope down. There's a big tower on top of the rock. I don't know what kind of tower it is, but there's a tower up there. And Kai my son Kai, he said, "They don't like that, Mom, and they want us to take it down." I said, "Wow, that's powerful, Kai." I said, I don't know what to tell them because I don't know how to take it down. But that's really, really big medicine that you brought here. And as we're looking up at the tower and he's telling me this beautiful big winged black bird starts doing circles around the tower. And then later that evening I spoke to my friend Lily, who's here, and she said that the birds are really showing up right now to break down the towers because the frequency that the towers are putting out are destroying them. And so this all came together by the end of the night. So towards the end of the float, I asked my son, "So what are your gifts, hon?" And he said, "I can talk to nature, Mom." So that's a beautiful gift, Kai.
Well, it was 1997. I was living in Ohio, and I woke up. It was a Saturday in June, and I woke up, and there's this little dude about 3 foot tall at the side of my bed. And he opened his eyes. He was startled, and then in my head I hear, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid." And I roll over on my back, and there's another little dude, and he's startled. His eyes are open too, and one that's a head taller, and he's speaking to me telepathically. Now they look like grays, but they had a lavender color to their gray skin, and they wore these purple robes, and it had this aura all around them. And at that time I was Catholic, so I didn't understand the questions I asked, but I did. So I asked, "Who are you? Why are you here, and what are you doing with me?" And he said, "I'm here because you asked me to. What we're doing is we're checking in on you, and that's why we're here." So I asked again because I didn't understand, and he goes, "May I show you something?" And yeah, so he goes, "May I sit down?" Because there's a chair in the room. So then he goes like this, and a screen comes up. And then I'm seeing, he goes, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yeah." And so images like this of timelines of the Earth. And they're everything, war, natural disasters, poverty, sickness, illness. Sometimes you get a glimmer of the utopian society and peace, but it was more bad than good. That went on for I don't know how long. And then it stopped, and they went like this. And I said, "Why did you show me that?" And he said, "Because you're here to choose one of those timelines. You and millions like you came here at this time to make one of those things happen." And I said, "Oh." Then he said, "But you're not going to remember this conversation until one of those things happen, and then your journey's going to start." And I said, "Okay." And then the three of them got together, and I said, "Will I see you again?" And they said, "Most definitely." And they became an orb and floated out of the room. In the morning I woke up foggy, knowing that I had some kind of dream. And so I asked my wife, I said, did you have any weird dreams? And she's like, "No." And I'm like, "Okay, what'd I eat?" So I just, nothing. And then I turned the TV on, and Gumby's on. I'm flipping through channels, and Gumby's on. And Gumby gets abducted by Grays. And I'm like, no fucking way. And I put that in my no fucking way file. So, because I know Gumby's from the 60s, and the Grays didn't come in till, so I was like, okay. Forget all about it. Flash forward. I'm in Philadelphia. It's a beautiful Tuesday, and that's where I'm living at that time. And one of those things happened. 9/11. I was shown in 1997 the planes hitting the towers. And when I saw that, it knocked me off my feet, and I had to sit down and start questioning what's real. And ever since then, I've been on this journey to the truth, of my truth, and it's been fascinating. And thank you for this opportunity, Tyler.
Hello, my name is Deborah Emanuel, and I am just going to talk about part of my journey to the truth, what has helped me to find truth within myself and be able to share that with the world. My journey to the truth began when I really began to appreciate nature and connect in nature. I began hearing voices from the trees, hearing messages from the trees, from the water, from plants, and I learned so much of deep, deep value as I began to listen more and more. And so now I am stepping up as the voice of the water, and the water needs our help. Each one of us is here to be a voice of the water. We can be a voice of nature. As we listen to nature, we become that. And the connection that we have to nature is so critical to our future, to our children, to our lives, and the quality of our lives, and the level of freedom that we are able to obtain when we remember who we really are through the messages that nature has to give. So the water now is contaminated. It's becoming more and more contaminated. And what the government is doing is increasing that. It's not lessening it. And so we are finding that our health is deteriorating because what we do to nature, we do to ourselves. And what we do to ourselves and each other, we do to nature. So it's critical that we begin to reevaluate our priorities, to look at our own inner waters, to determine within ourselves where that contamination is and where we have lost touch with the truth, where we have disconnected from nature. And as we start to bring that back, spending time in nature is really important for us to be able to remember, because nature can help us reconnect. She will remind us. So the water is focusing on the water. We drink it every day. Water is life. We are here to remember our purity and our innocence, and to allow that purity and innocence to be reflected out into the world. And so when you look at the water and you see your face, that innocence is reflected back to you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I want to share a memory recall of an experience I had with, I guess you can say, the SSP, right? And this isn't something that I've shared before publicly, but I guess now is a good time. So very short story, very short recall. So one day I was in meditation trying to uncover some of my memories, right? And I got taken to this, it felt like I was inside of a different body, almost like the body of an extraterrestrial of some kind, like more of an enhanced human or something. And I found myself inside of this huge, what appeared to be a mothership. The memory started inside, where I was seeing rows and rows and columns of capsules all over, I mean, stretching out for miles. Like this was probably like a mothership or something. And so I remember looking at some of the bodies of different extraterrestrial species. I could see their skin tone, like their different genetic coding and stuff. Some were furry, some were scaly, some were hybrids of like all kinds. So it felt to me like I was on some kind of infiltration mission or something. And then as I was walking, because the feeling that I was getting while recalling it was like I was hiding, like secret. So it felt more like a secret mission. And so as I was walking through this huge opening, just full of these capsules, full of ETs in stasis, because they were all like in some cryogenic stasis or something. And then I got caught, almost like an alarm sounded, and I saw this extraterrestrial with like a grayish looking skin, and its head looked like a gray, but not really. I don't know what kind of species this was, but he was like levitating like about 30 feet above me, and I was looking at him from up top. And it was this weird encounter where it was almost like the memory kind of turned into third person, where then I started to levitate, but not as high as him, but just like a little bit. And it felt like it was going to be some kind of face off, but then it just kind of cut right there. And that's really all I remember. So, but the feeling I was getting, like some kind of recon infiltration mission to gather information. So this was some kind of harvesting ship, you know, extraterrestrial harvesting ship, which is pretty interesting. It was huge. Like, it was bigger than a stadium. Like I couldn't even see the end of it. Like, it was so large. So that's pretty much all I remember. That was pretty crazy.
All right. Hi, my name is Zafiera. I am a spiritual coach and psychic medium, and I've had a lot of experiences with ETs throughout my life, but it got a little bit more intense as I got older. And just recently, about a year ago, I was sitting outside at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and there was this star in the sky, and I was staring at it, and I was like, this can't just be a star, because it had this flicker to it that wasn't normal. And so I call my partner Antonio outside, and I'm like, hey, do you think this is an ET ship? And he's like, well, you're psychic, ask it. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting there, and he went back inside, and I'm telepathically communicating with this, and I'm like, all right, if you are an ET ship, please just show me. And so I'm waiting, and then my eyes get directed to another part of the sky where there's like this red light, and you can kind of see almost like a pyramid shape. And so I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay, I think this was a confirmation that the ETs are there. And so I call him back out to look. And as soon as he walks out, there's a flashing red light that comes from a different part of the sky right across the area of that pyramid that I was looking at. And so he's now with me, and we're like, okay, is this a helicopter? Like, it can't be a ship. Like, we're still on the fence on if it is truly a ship. But so it went through, and then it came back around, and then it did it again. And then another part of the sky, there was a green light that appeared, and then that one's going back and forth, and then they're both kind of communing with each other. And I'm like, oh my goodness, these are ships. And so I'm just chilling there, kind of taking in the energy, feeling it, because now I'm feeling a lot of extraterrestrial energy, and I'm feeling very specifically the Lyrans, but it felt like there were different groups of ETs there. There was also like the rhinoceros energy that was coming through as well, which was really cool, which was like a new energy for us at the time. And so that I was really just taking in the experience, and I was like, okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back inside, wait 30 minutes, come back out and see if they're still there. So I do exactly that. And I come back out, and the second I walk outside, I see like a very visible saucer just come up right to my face and leave in about a second. And I was like, oh my goodness, like if that is not the ultimate confirmation of the extraterrestrials, then I don't know what is. And then right after that, there was another blinking light that came in the sky and just started moving. And then there were other ones, and these were all just white lights, but then the green one came back, and so there was just a bunch of extraterrestrial activity in the sky. And I felt like they of course responded to me, because I was really pleading with them, like, guys, show me. And they put on kind of like a laser light show for me that night. And I called Antonio back out again, but he missed the saucer. But it's an experience that I will never forget. And from that day on, I see a lot of ET ships in my backyard, and I'll always know when the flickering light, I don't know how to put my finger on it, but if you're ever questioning if that flicker in the sky could be an ET ship, definitely ask them to show you more, and they may just do so. Or things flying. Sorry. Okay, I cut that out. But yeah, that's my story. So I am a big believer of the ETs. I've had a lot of other experiences, but that one really left a mark on me, and it's stayed there since. So I'm happy to share.
Okay, so I was working for a short time as a photography assistant, and this was in Michigan, and as most people probably would imagine, a lot of the jobs there revolve around the auto industry. And so our job was setting up a set to photograph cars, and we would photograph like the new models that are coming out. They'd come in hidden or camouflaged, or we photographed the airbags when they first came out, stuff like that. So all the work was done, all the photographs were taken on big indoor stages, and we had to set them up for each shoot. So this shoot, we had to set up a scaffolding. And we had gotten it so far, and we were on the 3rd level. And I was putting up the railings. And one of my co-workers was handing me the railings. And he was standing on the edge of the scaffolding, and I was on the long edge of the scaffolding waiting for him to hand me the railing. And he was a big guy, and I weighed 90 pounds at the time, and he thought that maybe I couldn't, that maybe it would be too heavy for me. So when he handed me the railing, which I don't know why he thought that, because we'd been, we were on the 3rd level already, but he overcompensated and he fell. And he fell with the railing, and he fell right on top of me. And he fell right on top of me, and I was standing at the edge of the scaffolding with nothing behind it. And he fell right on top of me, and the thing I remember most clearly is the terrified look on his face as he went over the edge. And only he didn't go over the edge because I blocked it. So he grabbed on. I don't know, because I wasn't watching this. I was just in it. And I don't know if the angels just held me up or if they pulled me for a nanosecond out of the, into another dimension or whatever. But whatever, I just felt so peaceful and so calm. And I don't know how long that lasted, but when I noticed that my feet were back on the ground, on the platform, I just took a minute, and then I happened to look down, on the ground, and he was going, and I don't know how long he stood there like that, but I just went back, and I don't remember anybody. There was no instructions. The photographer, who was the boss, never said anything. And I know my coworker was just trying to reconnect himself and get back to good. He was, struggling there. I think he hurt his leg. And I noticed nobody gave any instructions. Nobody asked how anybody was. Nobody said anything. And when I reflected on this later, I realized that nobody talks after a miracle.
Hey, it's great to see y'all. I'm Grant Hicks. I've been asked to help support Michelle doing some of the emceeing here. And I was going to tell you a story about how I came to Star Knowledge Conference, how I got to make my book that I've brought here with me, and how I met Michelle. So I was living in Austin, and I'd finished my acupuncture degree, and I was doing a lot of spirit work in the place I was at, and I got these downloads about this book, which was a 7-dimensional structure that connect our bodies to the heavens, to our families, and all these different levels in geometry and in arithmetic with different levels of infinity. And I could see how it all fit together. And I'd been a deep student of philosophy, mathematics, and religion, and I could see how all these things are coming together. And that night I got where I was like, oh my God, I see it. These beings came and told me I was going to make an oracle deck, which I did, and this is the book that goes with that oracle deck. And they said I was going to make a curriculum for the star children of the future. So I happen to work at a Waldorf-inspired high school in Viroqua. I teach mathematics, and I can use my multidimensional system to work with those students. So I have a place to practice that. So anyway, I have made the oracle deck, I have made the book, and I'm working on the next level for that curriculum for the star knowledge for the children. So during that time in Austin, where I got these ideas, I was shown a vision of that I was going to meet these Native American elders, and I didn't know what that was about. And I tried to look up Native, like how are you going to meet these elders? And I didn't know how to do that. So it took 6 months or something. I just waited, and my friend came along and showed me this flyer, and it had a picture of Chief Golden Light Eagle on it. And I'd never seen him, but when I saw that picture, I was like, that's him. I know that's what they were showing me. I'm supposed to go to that. And so all this stuff worked out where me and my brother could just go to Iowa. We traveled up to Iowa to go to this Star Knowledge Conference, didn't know anything about it. We got invited to go to the Sundance after that. And so that opened up the doors to being connected with this world of other dimensional beings and other people who believed and had other experiences like myself. I had no way to get there. I didn't have any money, but I just knew I'm supposed to go. And I found stones that told me I was supposed to go. My friend, the day before I was just going to hitchhike, said, I had this dream, and in the dream the Spirit told me to get you a bus ticket. So she got me a bus ticket, and when we arrived there, it was all just a magical experience, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with myself afterwards. But I'd done my card readings for a lot of the people there, including Michelle, and I was sitting there at the hotel, and she calls me, and she's like, what are you doing, Grant? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just sitting here at the hotel. She's like, well, where are you going to go? I'm like, I don't know. And she said, well, you want to come stay with me? I was like, yeah. I would. So she came, and I stayed with her for days. She introduced me to her whole scene there. I was on the radios and the conference, I was on a panel. All these things just opened up naturally because of the 7-dimensional card system. People are opening up to different otherworld experiences, and they were like a gateway to having that happen. So then, since then, me and Michelle have been great friends. That's been, what, 10 years ago? And so she knew to invite me to this thing because of the work we've been doing. So that's a little bit of a story for you guys.
Yeah, I've had several encounters starting at 4 years old and being checked on by my family. So we are here. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We decided to incarnate on this earth, and being notified and checked on, they validated what my thought process was when I was 4 years old. So we are here, and we incarnated. And we are the 144,000 DNA strands that were gifted to us to be able to be here and incarnate on this earth, so that way we can go ahead and help this earth be where it needs to be, or where we want it to be, and no longer having the experience of the 3rd dimensional density and elevating us to our 5th dimensional density. So most people now on earth are star brothers and sisters. They are Sasquatches and fairies, but we're in the incarnate, and it took us millions of years to be able to get to this place and point. It took the Galactic Federation to come together to share all of their magical gifts to create this beautiful biological computer that is sitting right before you, this advanced AI, that, you know, so-called AI, but it has the God seed, and nobody else could have that God seed unless you have gone through the initiation processes here on Earth.
Okay, so like in 1996, I was 14. We're just outside of Roswell. There's a town in between, it's called Tatum. And so we gassed up, we were on this road there, this Cadillac passes us, and my mom goes, oh, that's weird, it says Neiman Marcus too. And then all of a sudden, both cars, like our Tahoe and my mom's, and this other Cadillac, they just boom, stop. Like everything, I don't know if we went through like electromagnetic pulse, or we didn't really understand. Like the cars just stopped, and my mom's like, ah, and then like it pulls to the side, and then I'm like, what's happening? Mom, start the car. And she's like, I don't know, it's dead, it won't start, everything's not working. Like, so she can't get the car to turn over. The car is in front of us, like 100 yards in front of us. They also are stopped. And so my mom says, or she's like, here, try the cell phone, try the cell phone. Dead, everything dead as a doornail. So she's like, okay, you guys stay in the car. I'm going to go out there and talk to them and see like where everything is. So she walks up to the Cadillac, and she says, there's 3 people in it. There's like a little boy, an old man, and a like chauffeur type guy driving it. And they're all bald. Like none of them have hair. And they won't look at her. So she like knocks on the window, and she's like, hi, like, did y'all's car break down too or whatever? And the guy cracks his door, and he says, like, they just nod. They won't look at her, and they won't say, like, they won't use their vocal cords to say yes. And so she started getting like this gut feeling, like, oh God, okay, well, those guys are kind of weird. So then she says, okay, well, if you guys get help, send them back, and if we get help, we'll send them forward, okay? And they just like nod. So she's like, okay, this is weird. And so she looks back to, like, it's only 100 yards, not very far. She goes back to the Tahoe or whatever, and she says she starts running, and in her mind's eye, she's like running, and it looks like something out of The Shining. It gets like further and further and further, like the car keeps on getting further away instead of closer. And so she's starting to freak out, and she's like realizing that this could have been like a trap for somebody to take her kids or something. She didn't really know what was going on. And meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're just like in the car, like, oh, you know, being jerks. And so she finally gets to the car. She's sweating and she's like super like frantic and stuff. And she's like, oh, nobody's getting out of this car for the rest of the time, blah, 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 blah. We're like, what's the matter, Mom? And she's just like, nothing, just, you know, like whatever. But you're not even getting out of the car to go to the bathroom or anything. Just pee in a jar and we'll, you know, and I mean, it was like, okay, this is a major highway. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, it should have already had people driving by. Nobody drove by. It felt like we were there for hours and hours and hours and hours. I don't really know how long we were there. So finally, this semi truck comes from like Tatum, right? So it comes from the direction we were gonna go to, and it stops and it helps the Cadillac in front of us. So it pulls in front of the Cadillac. This other bald guy gets out. He jumps off the Cadillac. And then they both just go towards Tatum and they leave us in the dust. Like, they don't come back and help us. They just completely leave us. And my mom's like, you know, like, we're all kind of, you know, like put out by this kind of situation. So anyway, we're back to like feeling like it's forever and just waiting around. Nothing's happening. And then this beautiful Adonis of a man, he looks like Superman. He's like, 6'6" and like just this huge thing with like blue eyes and like black curly. It literally looks like Superman. He like knocks on the window, and I'm 14, and I was like, oh. Anyway, but so that's how come I knew he was like super pretty, you know. Anyway, but so he comes to the door and he's like, hey, can I help you guys? And he was in this little blue slug bug, and when we didn't even know where he came from, and then we were like, yeah, you know. So my mom, like, he jumps the car off, it works and stuff. And then he you know, he has her start it, she starts it, he leans in, she rolls down the window, he leans into the car and he's like, okay, so you guys were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, but it could have been a lot worse than it was. So here's what's going to happen. When you get to Tatum, the gauges are going to go completely up again, and the cell phone will start working once you're in Tatum. And at that point, you need to call your dad, which was my grandpa. Like, he's telling my mother this, right? And he is like, if you see the semi truck or if you see the Cadillac, do not stop and don't engage with them. And we're like, we didn't tell you anything about the semi truck or the Cadillac. We didn't ever mention that to him because, I mean, like, why would we? And he was just like, yeah, I know. Like I said, you guys were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, but it's okay. Like, you guys will be all right. And I was like, okay, well, thank you so much. Is there any way we can help, like, send you something to thank you, whatever? And he was like, no, you're fine, whatever. So everything exactly happened like he said. So we get into Tatum. All of a sudden, the cell phones work, and they're like, we drive by, there's the semi truck and the Cadillac are stopped by the side of the road, and all of them are out there, and they're all like these little bald dudes just standing there looking at us as we drive by. They weren't in blacks, like men in black suits per se or something, but they were weird. Anyway, so my mom calls her dad, and it's just like, this is where it gets, like, there's disputing between my family, because, like, some people will say it was only like 5 or 6 hours, and then I remember it being we were gone like 2 or 3 days, but my mom's like, it was only like 1 day, or like, we had missing time. I don't know how much time, because we debate upon the people in the car how much missing time there really was, but there was definitely some missing time. And then later on, like about a couple weeks later, my mom went to go pick up my little sister from like her piano lessons or something, and then she sat down and was talking with the piano teacher. And my mom, we never really talked about what happened while we were in it, because we were in it, you know. And then, so my sister was telling her piano teacher like what happened, and she said to the piano teacher, like, yeah, like, we had this whole experience and Mom was running backwards. Like, Mom kept on running backwards in this thing. And I remember Jade saying, Mom's running backwards, and I was just like, shut up. Like, I didn't even like try to verify what she was saying, whether it was true or not, because my sister was kind of a crybaby at that point and stuff. So I was just like, whatever. And that was the first time for my mom where she kind of felt like validated that thing like really did happen to her, and that like something with time was like messed up. And so I don't know if we went through like a electromagnetic, like, what is those little bombs that's like, what are those things called? The EMPs, I think that's what they're called. Electromagnetic pulses or something. I don't know, something happened, but anyway, it was weird and it was cool, and it was near Roswell. So there you go, that's what I got.
Awesome.